Again, I'm Kathleen, and it's time to sew, and today we're working on pillowcases. No matter what your style, whether you're country or ultra modern, a pillowcase is a pillowcase. The only thing that's different is the fabric you use and how you trim it. So this one here, we're going to do a little bit of country, and I'm using a little bit of calico here and some eyelet trim. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by cutting our fabric to size. Fabric is basically about 43 inches, 44 inches wide. So we're going to cut it at 29 inches wide. 22 inches wide. Okay? Sometimes you need to kind of make it happen. On this piece, in order to get the 22 inches wide, I could only remove one piece of the selvage, which is this one, the one with all the writing on it. The other side actually was fine. It doesn't show. You can't tell which one here is or isn't. This one here is the selvage because you can, right along the edge, it shows a little bit. But that's going to be taken up in the stitching, so we're not going to worry about it. All right? It's more important that we have our pieces the right size. So 22 inches wide and 30 inches long for this, okay? And I'm using a, this is a 4-inch pre-gathered eyelet trim. It comes with already gathered up, and it has the little binding at the top, which makes life a lot easier. So what we're going to do is, for starters, we want to measure our eyelet so that it fits the pillowcase, the width. We want to go from one end to the other. Don't stretch it out. The best way to do this is to pin it as you go. First, pin it in place before you cut. So on this one, we want to pin the wrong sides together. Okay, so the wrong side of the ruffle to the wrong side of the fabric. And the reason for this is that we don't want to have this raw edge. If we were to sew it the normal way, right sides together, we'd end up with a messy edge. Okay? We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew it wrong sides touching each other, and we're going to pin it so that it's just covering that edge of the seam. We want it to just cover the edge of that binding. Let's see if I can get this going here. I'm a right-handed person and I'm working left-handed, so bear with me. Okay, so we pin it close to the fold of that trim work. Okay, very tight to the end. And we're gonna do that right across. As you go across, don't pull on it. You don't want it to be stretched out of shape. Okay, we want it to be a comfortable fit. So we do that right across, all the way to the other end. Once you've got it all the way to the other end and you're good with it, make sure your lace is sitting straight. Okay? You don't want it to be off to the side like this. You want this part to be, it's crucial that it be straight. Okay? And you've got your fabric on top of it, all pinned in place. Okay? Now you can cut this line. Cut the excess lace off, making sure that it's nice and straight, because if it isn't, it'll show when it's all sewed together that it'll either be too wide or too narrow, and it won't be nice and even with the rest of the pillowcase. And so when you're done with that, see, it'll comes nice and straight. Okay, So then what we do is we go to the sewing machine with it, okay? And you line up your needle so that it follows the stitching here. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit for you. All right, where am I? There we go. Okay, so there's stitching right here on the eyelet. You want to match that stitching. Okay, so set up your sewing machine stitch, the length of the stitch, so that it's as close as possible to the same length that you've got here. Okay, that's on the eyelet, and use the same color thread. Now you're going to set it into the sewing machine, and you line up your needle so that it's in that stitching. Go slow and back stitch 2 stitches, and carefully, slowly stitch on top of the stitching of the eyelet border. Okay? And then what you end up with is this, okay? The 2 right sides are out. These are the right sides. And the back side is going to be nice and neat. And we're going to press this upwards. And the seam, the raw edge, will be caught up inside the ruffle, inside the binding for the ruffle. We will be stitching this down. Okay, so we're at the machine, and we're going to sew so that we're stitching right down the stitching line of the binding. If you look at your machine, your presser foot, this one here has a groove in the middle, and that shows me that's the center. It's perfectly lined up with the needle. So if I have this stitching going right through here, I know the needle will sew right in on those stitches. Alright, so we're going to start by doing a couple of back stitches. Okay, and then just gently sew on top of those stitches. Take your time. Make sure the pillowcase fabric doesn't peep out. You want it to be as close as possible to the edge here, but you do not want it to peep out on the other side. Okay, so we don't want to see it. This way here, when we fold it back and we stitch it down, it'll be out of sight. We'll have a lovely seam. Alright, so let's sew. Take your time. It's more important to go slowly and get right on those stitches so that it's invisible than it is to go fast and get it done quickly and messy. Alright? Once we're finished with this part, the next part is going to be just as simple. Actually, a little bit easier. Keep those stitches right down the middle. Give it a couple of back stitches, and there we go. Alright, remove all your pins. Generally, you should be pulling your pins out as you go along, but if you're going really slow and your pins are on the back side, you don't generally have too much of a problem. Alright, trim your threads. Okay, and now what you need to do, now see how nice it is in the back? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to press the fabric up, press the seam upwards. Okay, just give it a light pressing, and then we're going to sew down, following the fold. We're going to top stitch the whole way down. Alright, Alright, give me a second while I press this and we'll be right back. Alright, so we're back. We've got it all pressed. Alright, and you see how nice and pressed it is? Okay, and the back is nice and tidy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to top stitch. We are going to top stitch close to the fold of the binding, which is this part right up here. So we're going to sew right close there, as close as you can get without going off. So once again, line up your fabric under your foot. Slowly put your needle down. Do a couple of stitches, back tack it. Okay. Now making sure, give it just a little pull, just a little. We're just gently holding it apart, and we're sewing very close to the edge of that binding. Go slow, because it's more important that you stay on target. Because top stitching is one of those professional touches that, if it's done well, is very nice, and it shows that the sewer knows what they're doing, that they have skills. Alright? It's always best to start off doing things the right way. Learn to do things the correct way right from the start. Then you won't have to go back and undo it. Or you won't have shoddy work. Alright? Now these are going to make great gifts. These are terrific gifts for wedding gifts, for Christmas, birthdays. If you've got somebody that you love and they're crazy about their room and they like pretty things, they would really love and appreciate that you made something so pretty for them. So pretty and so special, using their, making it so that it suits their room, their favorite color. It's something that they'll think about you every time they put their head down to sleep. You'll be the last thing they think of, because they'll be going to sleep on your pillowcase. There we go, back tack it, and then we do the next one. Okay, let me do the next one. I'll be right back. Alright, we're finished with that one. Next step. Okay, see how good that is? With that top stitching? And the back is nice and tidy and neat, no raw edges. Okay, next step is we're going to sew up all the outside, the 3 outside rows. Okay, 3 outside seams. Now for doing this, we're going to do a French seam, which in a lot of ways is like what we just did. So we're going to start by putting the wrong sides together. Alright? We're going to do it so that the right sides of the fabric are outside. And I know it doesn't look right, but this is a French seam, and this is the way it's done. When we're finished, the seam is going to be totally encased, and it's going to, trust me, you're going to love it. Start at the seam for your ruffle, and match that up. Match that. Okay? Get that in there, and that needs to be as perfect as you can possibly make it. Alright? Pin that. Now, just pin up every few inches, just to help you out. Just to make it a little easier for you along the way. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you're comfortable without doing it. But since you're a new sewer, I think you should be pinning till you get a few projects under your belt and you can get comfortable with it. All right. Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to start up at the corner. Okay, we're going to start up at the uppermost corner. Make sure that's even. Put it under your presser foot at 1/4 inch. Line this up with the 1/4 inch mark on your machine. For my machine, it's in the foot. It has, I don't know if you can see this. Try and put it under the light. Alright, there's this opening over here. If I sew, line up my fabric with this part of the foot, with this leg right here, that's 1/4 inch from the needle, if the needle is in the middle. Alright? Every machine has some little gizmo that tells you where your seams are. And usually the 1/4 inch seam is inside the foot. Alright, so now we're going to back tack it a little bit. A couple stitches. Make sure your edges are perfectly lined up. And sew 1/4 inch from the edge all the way down. We're doing a French seam. French seam is beautiful. It takes away all the raw edges. There will be no raw edges showing. It's a very professional finish, and it's a quality finish. When you go shopping, I don't know if you can open packages, but when you have the opportunity to look at other pillowcases, open them up. Take a peek inside. Look at how the seams are. How are the seams finished? Do they have French seams? Are they done with a surgery? Are they zigzagged? Did they even bother to put a seam finishing on it? Or did they just stitch it real quick and just let it go with that? You'll notice that what you will find is the more expensive the pillowcase, the more they've allowed for work to go into it. So you will see the top, you will see the French seams, you will see top stitching, you will not see any raw edges or serge finishes. They won't be there. Okay? Alright. So that's the first part of that seam. Okay? So now what I'd like you to do is to do the rest. Go down. Continue doing the other sides. All the sides. Alright, now start from this corner and go across this way. You know what? How can I make this easier for you? I know. Since you're a beginner, I want things to be as easy as possible for you. So let's do the other side. Okay. Now we're going to do the other long seam, same way you did the first one. Okay. Stitch down here. 1/4 inch. We're going to do the 2 long seams, and then we'll do the top seam. next step, we need to press this. Before you go on to the next thing, you need to press this part. Alright, so what I'd like you to do now is open this up a bit. Okay. Have the seams off center. See, one's here, one is here, and the other one's here. We're going to go to the ironing board, and we're going to lay this out flat, and we're going to press the seam to one side. Okay? We'll do that, and we'll come right back. Okay, so we've got it pressed, and from the right side, I asked you to press it over towards one side. Now you turn it inside out, or outside in. Okay? Put the inside of the pillowcase on the outside. Now you see the finished seam. Well, that's not all there is to it. There's more to this. Now we're going to sew it because we don't want this raw edge on the outside. We're going to do basically what we did on the ruffle. Okay? What I'd like you to do is go back to the ironing board, press your seam again, flat the way you did it before, press it to one side, just go over the seam. Then, following that, now fold it in half, fold it back so that your seam is right at the edge. Okay? And we're going to have that folded down this way and press this. Make it nice all the way down because this is going to be where you're going to be stitching. Let me see. Can you see through this? I don't know if you can see through this with the light shining through that. Where the seam is, the seam allowance is actually inside. Okay? So go do that, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew. This time we're going to be sewing 3/8 of an inch from this outer edge. For my machine, for this machine, it's the outside edge of the foot, the presser foot. That's 3/8 inch. Also, if you look on your plate, down here, on this plate, let me see if I can get it in there. If you look at the plate, you'll see numbers here, and one of them will say 3/8. Alright, 3/8. That's your mark. That's where you're going to be placing the fold of your fabric. So, like I said, for mine, it's right here at the edge of the presser foot. Okay, let's see what we've got here. There we go. All right, put it down. Do a couple of stitches, back stitch. Okay, and now we just go down the whole way. This is called a French seam. This is probably, other than a regular open seam, this is probably the most used seam. I know it's the one I use the most frequently. I use it inside of my clothes to make a nice inside finish. I use it on pillows. Anything where you're going to see the seam, the seam is going to be showing. That's where I use a French seam. That's where I put the French seam. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit bulky here, so go slow. Go slow over that bulk. And continue on down. That's back. Okay. We're good. Let me show you what it's like. Okay, so now you've got your finished seam there. Now, looking at, this is the first seam, alright, where it's raw, and this is the seam we just made to finish it. This is your French seam. It's beautiful. It's beautifully finished on the outside and the inside. Okay? So, I'd like you to go sew that. And then, we're going to do the same thing across the top. Put the pillowcase back. Put the right side out. We only have this last piece to do, just the top of it. Okay? Now since it's already been pressed, we don't have to worry too much about that. Oh, I forgot. Gotta do the other seam. Gotta do the other seam. Can't go across the top till that's done. Okay, be right back. Okay, now we're going to do the top section. So just as before, we want the right sides out. Match it up. Match up your edges. And we're going to sew 1/4 inch from the corner, from the seam, from the edge. Couple stitches to back tack. And go right across. Almost finished. And hardly took any time at all. Okay. There we go. Alright, now we're going to go press it just as before. Alright, so now we've got it ironed and turned to the inside. We want the inside of the wrong side of the fabric showing. Now when we did this, now when we turn it out, see you've got this lovely little corner here. Can you see that? Okay, this is your seam that's caught up, okay? That's perfect. We want this. And we've got it all pressed just like we did along the sides. And we've got the other corner here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do our 3/8 inch seam. And we're going to lay down that corner. Okay, and one more time. This is it. This is the last seam. Okay. Go a couple of stitches, back up, and I make sure you're at your 3/8 inch seam, and don't do like I just did. I just did it at 1/4. Alright. Alright, one more time. 3/8 inch is the edge of the foot. Alright, here we go, one more time. Back it. Keep it nice and smooth. Now I keep my fingers here. I'm not pressing on it. I'm just keeping it smooth. So, okay. You don't want any pleats popping up. Carefully go to the corner seam. Back that. And there you have it. Your pillowcase is finished. Alright, let's go iron it and see the finished thing. Okay, so we're going to give it one last pressing before we turn it over. Take out all the wrinkles we put into it. Make sure all the threads are clipped. And here we go. Turn it right side out. One of the best ways to do a corner when you're going to flip it is fold your seams in. Okay? Fold your seam allowance down. Form that corner point and push that corner through first. It's gonna help you to make your point, make it nice and pointy after you come around, after you take it through. So just fold your seam allowance down, fold the fabric over it, and it helps you to get your corner. Use a pencil, something not pointy, nothing that can tear your fabric, and just push out the rest of that corner. There you go, just like that. Push it out there. There you are. Okay, now we stitch it up. We give it one pressing on the final side. First press the seam open. Now you can fold it nice on the seam and give it that last pressing. And there's your pillowcase. Alright, and best thing, absolutely no raw edges. Look at that. Everything is completely closed in. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to put a little bow here. So all we want to do is make your bow ahead of time. Alright, so that you know how much ribbon you're going to need. Make your loop, hold your ends, make your loop, go around, run through. Okay, you're basically making your regular bow. You just don't have a knot to already have it started. Okay. Get the size you want. Clip it. Now you find your middle of your bow. Find the middle of the bow. Tack it down, which would be doing it with a couple of stitches. Alright, just sew a couple of stitches by hand right here. No problem, okay? And once it's secured, make your bow. Do it nicer than I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it fast to show you. But there you go. There you have it. There's your beautiful little country pillowcase. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're going to make plenty more. There's also a second video on this tutorial to make another pillowcase using a contrasting fabric instead of the lace. So if you enjoyed this one, stay around for that one. And thanks for joining me. This is Kathleen. It's time to sew.